What is your name?
Kelsey and Lovelady.
What is your quest?
To find the perfect editing process.
What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
African or European?
I don't know that.
I'm weird. Hello lovelies, thank you so much for joining me for today's video. So, I'm sure some of you are confused. What the hell do I mean when I say I'm trying to find the perfect editing process? Don't I already have one since I'm a published author? Well, that's a little complicated. I did have an editing process, but because it wasn't right for me, it was extremely tedious and difficult to focus on. And now that I'm typing on a computer again, one step of my editing process has to be scrapped. See, when I was writing my first manuscripts in a journal, I would edit as I entered what I wrote into the computer. It was kind of effective, but again, a tad tedious. If I wasn't in the mood for that kind of mental load, it basically just wouldn't get done. So now that I'm typing again, I have to rework some things. My other motivation for changing up my editing process is the planet. We as writers all know that in order for a book to get finished, some trees have to die, both for the sake of the editing process and for the publishing process. But if I can find a way to kill as few trees as possible and still perfect my editing process, I'm gonna do that. So why am I deciding to perfect my editing process now? It's because this was the year that I realized what I now always preach in these videos. One size doesn't fit all. Because editing wasn't really my thing when I started writing, I edited the way other people told me to edit. Even if I didn't like the process, I still did it because that's what the professionals did. Now, to be fair, to find my perfect editing process, I still have to try out processes and advice given to me by other people. But if it doesn't work for me, it would be insanity to keep doing it and expecting a different outcome. So, how did I used to edit? Well, I used to use bits and pieces from Jenna Moressi's editing process. Now, this is no hate to Jenna. Her process works for her, and that's all that matters. It's not a bad process just because it's not universal. But basically, for Starforged Orion, I would write a chapter on the computer one day, and then wait till the next day to edit that same chapter before writing a new one. Then I would print out the chapter that I had already edited once, and use a red pen to edit it again. I tried to get more into the rest of Jenna's editing process this year with my murder mystery. I would highlight parts of my book that needed to be changed or adjusted for whatever reason. I even tried to use her same color coding. I also specifically tried to do a continuity edit where every 5 chapters I just check in and see if anything has drastically changed since I wrote the last 5 chapters. But that basically didn't happen. I printed out the first 5 chapters to do it and got through to the end of the prologue. That's as far as I got. I can't say for sure why this doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. Best I can figure is that Jenna and I think differently and are motivated by different things. So, how am I going to form my own editing process? Research. I will ask other writers how they edit, or I will do Pinterest searches on editing processes. I'll read what people recommend and give it a try. If it works for me, I'll implement it into my process. If it doesn't work for me, I will thank it for teaching me something new about myself and move on. On that note, if you're interested in sharing your editing process with me, go ahead and tell me about it in the comments section below. Now, I've already found 2 steps in my process while trying to start this little journey I'm on. The first step I found seems to be universal in all editing processes, regardless of how the writer writes or what they write. Don't start editing your book until you've stepped away from it for at least a month. As is the case with all creators, writers can become very attached to what we make. Hence why we call them our book babies. And as is sometimes the case with parents, we don't always see the flaws that our books have because we love them so much. We think they're absolutely perfect. The only way to unblind ourselves from our love is to step away from it for a while. We need to work on something else so that we can take a look at the book with fresh eyes. So that's what I'll be doing with my murder mystery once it's actually finished. The second step in my editing process plays to my greatest strength. I'm an auditory learner. Hearing things to commit them to memory has always worked better for me than just reading them over and over and over again. I always learned subjects better when they were put in the form of a song or a rhyme. Hell, my mom came up with a song so that I could learn my address when I was younger, just in case I ever got lost and needed to tell a police officer where I lived. So, of course, hearing my words being read aloud is way more effective than just reading them. It's even more effective when I hear them in a voice that's not mine. That's why Microsoft Word's Read Aloud feature is perfect for me. I can change whether a man or a woman is reading my story, and I can change how fast they read. I tried this one time during NaNoWriMo when I was feeling like everything I was writing was shit, and boy did it make me feel better. I can't tell you how effective it was just to hear my words being read out to me. I could hear when I misspelled a word or even forgot to put a word in, and I would make a note of that, but just hearing my words being read was kind of arousing. And to quote my friend David Partolo, if you're getting aroused by your own work, you're either doing something very wrong or very right.
Apparently, all 3 had drunk so much the night before that not even Truth's frantic, panicked entrance woke them. They all stayed in the bed, snoring and drooling around one another. Shocked by the sight and unsure of what to do, Truth stood around for a moment before quietly backing up and closing the door behind her. She leaned against the door and sighed. I seriously underestimated her.
Now, to be fair, the read aloud function isn't perfect. If you have dashes or semicolons in a sentence, the read aloud feature will read it as a run-on sentence, and then it sounds weird. It also doesn't read stuttering correctly. But if you know that your computer trips up at these moments, you can prepare for them. In fact, it might be telling you that your grammar and punctuation need to be fixed. So, it could be worse. So those are the first 2 steps I found in my editing process. Take a break and listen. Every time I develop this process a little further, I will let you guys know, and I will tell you guys what I tried, what worked, and what didn't work. This is going to be an ongoing process for me, so I thank you all for showing an interest in my journey and for your patience with me. That's all I have for you today. Starforged Orion is still available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle, and it's also available on Barnes & Noble's website. My play How Are You is also available on Amazon in paperback and Kindle. If you'd like to find other ways to support me, go ahead and check out my Patreon. I'm just saying you could become a beta reader if you want to. And don't forget to check out my other social media sites if you want more content. Toodles!